So this is our shipment from HelloFresh, which is probably the world's most famous meal prep service. And this is a kit from Freshprep that has the world's first zero waste meal kit service. And today we're gonna figure out if either of them are worth buying. Hey team, welcome back to another episode. Today we're going to be talking about meal kits, and we're going to be answering two questions: whether or not they are sustainable in any way, shape, or form, and whether or not they are worth buying for you as a person who needs to eat food. Now this video is sponsored by Freshprep, but before you click away from this video and dismiss all of my opinions on the subject, I reached out to them. I also insisted that I try the product first and do my research before any agreement was made. Obviously, it was, because this video exists. So if you are like I was a couple of weeks ago, you had never tried a meal kit delivery service and you're kind of curious about whether or not it's worth the time. So we decided that we would try the zero waste Freshprep kit, but we also wanted to try the largest competitor, HelloFresh, to compare the two and let you know what our thoughts are on the industry as a whole. So let's get into it. So I was very skeptical of food prep kits when I started making this video, and so I made the deliberate effort to do some research to figure out if my fears had any grounds before I ever did this sponsorship. Quickly, I came upon an article written by Time Magazine analyzing a research paper that compares the impacts of food delivery services versus home-cooked meals. Perfect. The paper found that meal delivery services actually produced 33% less CO2 than the same meal cooked at home. Now, I was honestly a little skeptical at this point, but the paper goes on to elaborate on some things that I think shed some light on that number. See, the article specifically focuses on whether the increased packaging associated with meal kits is offset by the potential reductions in food waste. Now, from a CO2 perspective, they found a pretty clear answer to that question using this illustration here. As you can see here, the meal kit system simplifies the supply chain process from producer to consumer. Rather than sending all of these packaged foods to the grocery store and you going to pick them up, they just arrive at your door, portioned and ready to go. Now, these efficiencies are pretty easy to see and understand, but the reason why food kits have a lower carbon footprint is because they're reducing your food waste. It's a sad statistic that upwards of 40% of all the foods that we buy ends up going into the trash before it's ever eaten. So this is the trade-off that you get. You can go to the grocery store and buy the same amount of food with less packaging, but there is a very high statistical chance that some of that food is going to go to waste. If you buy a meal kit, you are going to get more plastic waste, but it is very probable that you are going to eat all of the food that they give you because it's portioned exactly. So it is the lesser of two evils, but I think it ignores a few things that I think are kind of important to mention in this video. Number one, how wasteful is your household? Leah and I are very conscious to not waste food. This is the food waste that we've created over the last week or so, and it's only half full. Number two, how do you get your food? The way that you get to and from the grocery store and the amount of packaging that's already on your food when you buy it has a huge impact on this experiment and its actual impact on the planet. Leah and I buy local, plastic-free whenever possible, and we walk to and from the grocery store. And number three, there is an unfair focus on CO2 versus plastic waste, because the thing is, all of the energy that goes into producing food is a lot more that goes into producing disposable plastic bags, sadly. We don't have an accurate way to measure the environmental impact of little bits of plastic like this. Things that could be in the environment for a really, really long time and that have effects that we don't really fully understand yet. Now, my analysis of meal kits in general is great, but it doesn't matter if meal kits suck in general. So let's get into what it was like for Leah and I to eat meal kits for the last couple of weeks. Okay, this is the first shipment from Freshprep in their zero waste kit. So let's see what it looks like. How do I open it?
Whoa, cool. Look at this.
Okay, so this is the zero waste kit. honestly, I'm kind of interested to see how this goes. We've made both of these meals in some way, shape, or form in our own house, so it'll be interesting to compare fresh prep versus home cooking.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Wow.
This is crazy.
Like, barely any chopping required. This is basically done for you. It's amazing.
Wow. Another thing that's really cool is, like, look at this. Like, you have these little containers that are measured on the side that indicate how much is actually in there. I mean, this is really innovative. I've never seen anything like this before, and it makes so much sense because all of these things would normally be wrapped in individual plastic bags, and now they're not. So having those compartments all built into that little container looks super logical and smart, but this probably took a ton of effort and research and design to make this system work the way it does. Now, to be clear, Freshprep does still have some food items that come in plastic containers or plastic bags for food safety reasons, but the amount of plastic that is avoided is pretty sizable, as we noticed when we got our HelloFresh box the next week. Okay, so we've just received our HelloFresh box. This is going to be interesting to see how the two compare. Every HelloFresh meal comes in the mail in a cardboard box, which is recyclable as long as it doesn't get any food waste on it. The meals are packaged in a paper bag, which is compostable, but almost everything inside of it is wrapped in plastic for food safety reasons. And I mean, everything is wrapped in plastic. The other meals in the kit had a predictable level of plastic on all of the ingredients, but something that took me by surprise was the ice packs. The ice packs are probably my least favorite part. Inside we have 5 bags like this, and you can't recycle them. Even on the HelloFresh website, they simply tell you to pour the contents of the bag into the garbage and then try and recycle the soft plastic if that's available in your area. But that seems crazy to me because why don't they just fill it with water so that you can pour it down the drain? This is the ice pack from our Freshprep kit, and it's reused by the company. But even if you forgot to send it back in the package with the rest of your kit, you can pour it down the drain and recycle it, as I mentioned before. So from a waste standpoint, Freshprep has done an incredible job at reducing the impact of their meal kits. But how do they taste? So what we're kind of realizing about meal prep kits is that basically it's cooking for dummies. You can get into cooking very easily with these kits because, you know, everything's pre-portioned. You don't have to think about cutting the onions and making yourself cry. The whole thing is simplified so that you're successful, and that feels really good. You get to come into it with no knowledge and leave with a beautiful meal. Well, at least we haven't done this one yet, but that's the idea anyway.
That's the hope.
So we are making the Tuscan bean pasta from HelloFresh right now. Having this meal delivered via meal kit solves 2 big problems that stand in the face of a lot of people who want to cook more food at home. And that is, 1, getting the groceries to make that food, and 2, figuring out what you want to eat in the first place.
So one thing that we've noticed with these meal prep things is that they aren't like explicitly vegan, but you can make them vegan. Like this entire meal can be vegan, except they pack it with the shredded Parmesan cheese.
For example, they recommended that we use butter, but in this case we used Earth Balance, which is a plant-based spread of some description, which basically does the same job. But yeah, that's something to consider, especially if you eat plant-based. All right, so there it is, the Tuscan pasta. Pretty simple to do. Yeah.
Ooh, pass the spice.
And I think that's one of the best parts of this so far is like we get into a habit of cooking kind of the same thing over and over and over again, and this just forces us to put beans in pasta, and it tastes good.
It does.
The Freshprep Zero Waste Kit offers a similar cooking experience to what we had with HelloFresh, but arguably even easier because we didn't have to open all those tiny little bags to get our ingredients. This was the tofu macro bowl with a cashew dressing, and it was a really cool meal to make, and it turned out awesome. All right, so, I mean, this looks legitimately chef-like. We would have never made this meal before, and it looks really awesome.
Chef kiss.
But the beauty of the zero waste kit comes when the meal is over. After you're done, you simply rinse everything, put it back into the tote that you got it in, and when you get your next delivery, you just send it back. Which makes a ton of sense. Like, let's bring back the milkman already, right? But are they worth it? From a financial standpoint, the meal kits sit somewhere in between getting takeout and cooking your meals from scratch. HelloFresh had an average cost of $11.45 per dish, whereas Freshprep was slightly higher at $12.25. Now obviously these dishes could be made a lot cheaper yourself at home if you went out and bought the groceries, but on the other hand, these are a lot cheaper than eating out in a restaurant or getting takeout. Another thing that I don't think people factor into that cost is the quality of the ingredients. At least in Freshprep's case, they source over 75% of the ingredients in every meal from the province of British Columbia. These things like this tofu and this pack of corn tortillas are products that we've actually purchased ourselves and are actually made locally. Like, this is made down the street from where we live, which is super impressive. When you order your food from a restaurant, you're just sort of taking their word on where they got their ingredients and how much sugar and salt they're putting into the dish. I think that the meal kit option is great for people who are looking to expand their culinary repertoire, try some new things, and reduce their waste in a relatively hassle-free way. If you are financially strapped, this might not be the best option because, as I mentioned, it is a lot easier to cook your own food from home. But if you do want to save some money and try this out for yourself, you can save 75% by using the link down in the description below. Honestly, I'm so pumped that I get to share this video with you because Freshprep is genuinely one of the coolest companies that I've been able to work with in the last 3 years. They are a registered B Corporation. They are innovating in an industry that really needs it, and they're local. So please send them some love down in the description because supporting the sponsors that I work with supports this channel immensely. But I'm curious to know your experiences with meal prep kits. I know that there's a lot of different companies that do this, but from my understanding, Freshprep is the only one to do it zero waste. But regardless of your feelings on the subject, I want to thank you for watching today's video, for taking the time out of your day to spend some of it with me. And if you are subscribed to this channel, then we will see you in the next one. We don't always cook with a beer, but it's really nice to cook with a beer.
You totally overstuffed them.
Yeah, these are way too full. Maybe not like first date food.
This is a you've been together 7 years food?
Yeah, you want to eat this with somebody you know for the first time.